Hi, everybody. I'm Frank Stanisci of Candid Frank Live, where you'll find us airing our views here on the Spanglish World Network. Hey, if you got the time and the interest, you can watch Candid Frank Stanisci on the YouTube. The kids tell me that's some place where you can watch videos and stuff. So now on Candid Frank Live, joining me, of course, is Aaron William Freeland. Thanks for being here, Aaron.
Hey, thanks for having me, Frank.
So a little story that just went across the wire. I don't know if we even care about it, but what the heck? Just throw it out there. Something about a Toronto Maple Leaf. They play in the National Hockey League. Trade with another team that plays in Chicago, known as the greatest jerseys in hockey. I hear it's a rumor. I hear the Chicago Blackhawks.
Yeah, this is one of those lesser known sports that doesn't really get a lot of attention in the Canadian landscape. But there was a trade today between the Toronto Maple Leafs and the Chicago Blackhawks. Toronto received Jake McCabe, a left shot defenseman with 50% salary retained, Sam Lafferty, a center, as well as Chicago's fifth round draft pick in 2024, conditional, and Chicago's fifth round draft pick in 2025, also conditional. In return, Chicago receives Toronto's first round draft pick in 2025, which is conditional, Toronto's second round draft pick in 2026. Joey Anderson, who most recently has been spending time with the Toronto Marlies of the AHL, and Pavel Gogolev, who has spent most of the season playing with the ECHL Newfoundland Growlers. So nice little trade there. I guess there's a couple pieces that we've been eyeing for a while, and that most people have been saying that we should pick up, which gives us a little extra depth up the middle and another option on defense now that Jake Muzzin is out for the rest of the season.
There's a few things I'd like to add to what you said there, and all
Mm-hmm.
kidding aside, unfortunately, I have to say that the one place where Mr. Dubas failed is that neither of these guys are captains. First of all, disappointed there, but one of them is a center, and he's been trading for a few of those in the past little while. And then, of course, the other is a defenseman, and a defenseman with a little bit of bite, one that actually fits the same kind of mold, younger and healthier than Jake Muzzin, but same kind of mold. They also, and this is the one I really like. I like how finally, we're starting to see that the Leafs, who have an incredible advantage over so many other teams when it comes to finances, when it comes to how much money they make, sadly can't use that when it comes to salaries. So now what they're doing, and folks, I like this. This is brilliant. And for anybody who's saying, "What's Frank been drinking?" Because it always sounds like he's being negative about the Leafs. Well, I'm negative about the things the Leafs do that are negative in my mind. And so this is positive, and this is why I'm going to say this is positive, because now what Dubas has finally figured out, and I think the Leaf organization has figured this out, they can spend all the money they want on coaching. They can spend all the money they want on their, the growlers you just referred to, and their AHL team, and their coaches, and their medical staff, and their training staff, and their facilities. They can dump all that money into that, and nothing is more attractive to a player who, we talked a little bit about this at the last show, Aaron, and this does even more in the sense of when you go to a young man and say, "We'd like to enhance your NHL career by bringing you into our organization. By the way, we need you because we don't really have that many prospects. So we promise you'll get the kind of attention you might want or need. Not only that, we have the best facilities, we have the best coaching staff, we have a team that's really good, that's competitive." Aaron, this is, if Dubas gets fired now, regardless of how the Leafs do, I really don't think what they put together is going to end up causing him to get fired. And I'm going to say this, and I'm going to predict this. I hope you don't have to find out. I hope nobody has to find out. I hope I don't have to witness it on behalf of Toronto hockey fans, being a Toronto fan, period. But if they lose the first round, I suspect they won't even fire Dubas, even if he loses the first round, um, unless the Shanahan plan includes a replacement GM that will maintain the support system that's been created under Kyle Dubas. And let me underline that support system. for the organization, the foundation that isn't about draft picks, that isn't about players, but it's about a place and a system where some of the greatest franchises in history accomplished one very important goal. They took players in and made them the best they could be. We know what it's like when that doesn't happen, when it's the opposite way. We've seen it here in Toronto firsthand. But what you're looking at, folks, is an organization that's built to create a winner. Can they win the Stanley Cup? Absolutely, they can. I'm here to tell you they can. This organization can do it. They've convinced me that they've learned a lot of stuff that they need to do. And this trade here proves it to me. I repeat, they also got Chicago to pay some of their cap. $2 million a year for 2 years. In other words, Chicago's handcuffed themselves by the tune of $2 million a year. Toronto has released $2 million. Now they've got a player as good as, I think we can agree, as a defenseman as good as the one that they're replacing in Jake Muzzin, and he's costing half of what Jake Muzzin costs. Aaron, I'll stop here to give you a chance to get a word in edgewise.
No, it's definitely an opportunity that the Maple Leafs are taking full advantage of, and I understand that there's some trepidation out there based on the fact that the Leafs are spending draft picks in order to get other teams to retain salary, but that's just the way that they have to play it in this particular environment. The trade that sent their fourth round draft pick to Minnesota for money retained on Ryan O'Reilly is one part of it, and the draft pick that was sent over to Chicago to get them to retain $2 million is part of the cost of doing business. The Leafs aren't going to be bankrupt when it comes to draft picks, because they did actually get two coming back the other way from Chicago. So it's not the end of the world. They'll pick 3 times this summer. They'll pick 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 times in 2024, and they have 5 draft picks for 2025. So the cupboards aren't bare. They will be able to restock, but for this year in particular, the draw of actually being able to use some of the players that are going to be free once the Frozen Four finishes up and the Bean Pod is done is great incentive for us to help draw in more players to help restock.
May I make another prediction?
Sure.
Here's my next prediction, and this is one you can play this back in a year or two. They will also be able to sign players who are drafted and decide not to sign with the original team that drafted them. There's
This is
that
true.
too. If there are players out there that are going, the Leafs are kind of short on young talent, that might be a good place to go. Maybe, they're a good team. So the bottom line here is the foundation of the Toronto Maple Leafs is not Toronto and the fans, even though that's ultimately fantastic as far as the support that you get as a player, the money that the organization makes. I'm gonna ramble a little bit again. And then you've got the opportunity for advertising that other teams in Canada can't provide. We're seeing it all play out now, especially with gambling. They're all Leaf players that are advertising gambling. So at the end of the day here, what we're talking about is an organization that's developing a really good team, which to me is the underpinning of allowing and bringing in other players, because who doesn't want to play on a good team? A lot, there are players, Aaron, that would rather be number one in a small pond or be the best player on a not so good team just to be the best player. But let me ask you, are those the kind of players you want on your team?
I'd rather have the players that prefer to think bigger and wouldn't mind being a cog in a much larger machine.
And I think that's what they're creating. In all honesty, that's what I think they're creating. And I like what they're doing, and I like this trade. Will it get a Stanley Cup for Toronto? Only time will tell. Only time will tell. But it only takes a second here, folks, to peruse some of the experts and listen to what they're saying. And the Eastern Division of the National Hockey League is hell on wheels, baby. This is good. This is like when they talk about an arms race, we're talking arms, legs, feet, everything. We're talking. These organizations. There's a few. that have, first of all, the Bruins to catch up to. Imagine, Aaron, if you have any indication that you could win the cup and you want to make sure, you've got to beat the Bruins and look at what they are and look at what they've done. And then you turn around, the Rangers are about to get Kane. Word is that they'll probably end up getting him. New Jersey did what they did. They got pretty much a first overall pick to add to their team. He's got 31 goals as it stands right now. you know, and all these teams are like, if you're a team like in the West, you're going, good Lord, thank God we're not in that division. Good Lord, it's going to be an incredible playoff season in the Eastern Division, and the officiating is going to be so crucial. And that's the one thing that is the chink in the Maple Leaf armor, where they don't really get great officiating, and I don't think it's going to get any better for them. But one thing I gotta say, they need to learn, and I think they've got a guy like Spezza who can talk to them, and I think they've got enough guys on the squad right now that are very level-headed and prepared for anything that they're dealt with in the playoffs. Now, these last few games for the race to positioning in the playoffs, there's a handful of teams, at least a half dozen, maybe 7, that are in or out in the playoffs. As easily as they're in, they're out. So it's going to be really an interesting race to the playoffs. There's going to be some really, really tired teams going into the playoffs because it's going to be intense. Look, Buffalo's in the playoff spot. Who would have thought that about 3-4 months ago after
My,
the
my,
start?
my one fear out of all of this is there's so much built up in the East that by the time they actually get to the Stanley Cup Finals to play the West, there'll be nothing left to give.
Well, that's a distinct possibility, Aaron. But there is that saying that steel is forged by fire, right?
This is true.
Long as they don't melt, right? As long as the heat doesn't melt them, that's all. I got to tell you, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. The one constant in the playoffs, and this year will be worse than most. You need depth. You can't have just 4 defensemen.
Yeah.
You can't just have 2 lines, and you can't just have 1 goaltender. So those are the things that the boxes that have to get checked right away, and that's what this trade deadline is all about, right? It's about checking those boxes in the depth department.
And making sure that you've got the horses to get you where you need to go is the most important thing at this point in the season. There are potentially some concerns about chemistry bringing in all of these new players close to the deadline, but so far, Achari and Ryan O'Reilly have fit in pretty much seamlessly. The transition from no O'Reilly and no Achari to O'Reilly and Achari has been barely noticed, which I think is something that we really should be grateful for. It speaks volumes to the preparation that the coach will put his team through in order to make sure that everyone is on the same page.
If the 4 guys they traded for on the team, Aaron, that's a 20% change on ice players. This is a different team.
Oh, guaranteed, it's 100% a different. Well, okay, it's at least 20% a different team for sure.
Well, absolutely, because you're talking about the guys they brought in. They're not all 4th liners. Achari's a 4th liner, but that's it. Well, maybe Laterra would be a 4th liner as well. I think he might be a 3rd liner, but we do know that O'Reilly's a 1st liner.
No, most definitely.
And McCabe will be at least 1.5, maybe 2.5.
Well, like I said, I'm anxious to see them actually get here and slot into the lineup and see how they perform. So,
well, it's a good thing we have a half hour. We still have another 6 minutes to talk about other things. So why don't we move on to some other things?
Sure, we can do that.
Okay, what'd you think of Samsonov?
He's been playing well. I'll give him that
much. he was he played championship goaltending. Championship goaltending to me isn't how many goals you let in. It's when you make the saves. The timing of his saves in that game were perfectly placed. He was great when he needed to be, but he wasn't bad at all. He only allowed 1 goal, but I think you get my point.
Yeah, no, it's not so much how many, it's when.
So. And how about that left winger, that new left winger the Leafs have?
Oh yeah, Tavares guy has actually been working out really well on the left wing. Um, Personally speaking, I think it's absolutely fantastic that he's taken to that position as well as he has. Um, there's a lot more pressure to playing center, and I think, given the opportunity to have a little bit of fun on the left wing, has brought a little more zip and a little more pep to John Tavares's game. He seems a little more relaxed when he's out there. Um, some of the goals that he's scored in the past couple of games have been absolutely dynamite, because he's been freed up from his responsibilities as a center by the fact that they brought in this uber responsible center by the name of Ryan O'Reilly. So it's been great to see. I'm really enjoying it, to be honest with you.
Yeah,
So
well, and then of course they put together the coach is experimenting a little bit, and he's putting what the heck's that guy's name? Matthews and Marner. He's putting those two guys together. I heard they have some sort of history and a successful history, and he's put them back together again.
yeah, no, it's there's a lot of changes that have been made, and for the most part, they have been pretty successful when it comes to that sort of thing. So I am glad to see that that sort of thing is working for Keefe. He's not blenderizing the lines, as it were, really all that much. He's gone with the logical moves of slotting in players where they should naturally play. And while Tavares is good at center, I think it's more natural for him to be on the wing.
We're always paying attention to what's going on in the political world here in Canada, and apparently there's a discussion here about healthcare for profit. What's going on in that category for us? Tell us, please.
So, as part of an agreement between the Liberals and the NDP, there have been certain things that the NDP have been permitted to do. Most recently, Jagmeet Singh has advanced a motion in the House of Commons that would force Liberal MPs, to condemn Ontario's experiment with more private delivery of common surgeries. For those who aren't aware, because of the provincial premier in Ontario shorting healthcare services, a lot more has been downloaded conveniently to private health clinics as opposed to keeping it in the public realm. So the NDP are at the federal level are trying to get the prime minister to condemn these sorts of actions, because it kind of flies in the face of everything um, that we've been trying to establish with universal health care in Canada.
Tell me about SEBA and why it's important that businesses return the money, loan them.
So SEBA was part of a small business loan program, the Canadian Emergency Business Account. This was introduced at the height of the pandemic to help out small businesses who were forced to close or limit their operations due to public health measures. 900,000 businesses in Canada were approved for the program, which distributed just under $50 billion worth of loans. As it currently happens now, they are obviously expected to repay some of that $50 billion that has been portioned out to the almost 1 million businesses. As of the end of November, only 5.7 billion has been repaid, which is just 13% of businesses who repaid this loan in full. Um, for businesses that are still below pre-pandemic sales levels, this is obviously a concern. But as the deadline gets closer for this year's tax filings, they're finding more and more businesses are starting to default on these payments.
Aaron,
Mm-hmm.
we have bad weather here again. You want to break the bad news to everybody so we all prepare for snow shoveling and such activity?
Well, it's already started in my neighborhood in particular. We've actually received about 2 inches of snow since about noon today. What's it like up in your neighborhood?
Not yet, not yet. The skies look angry. We're hoping it misses us just a little bit.
So, as it currently stands, Yarmouth and Shelburne counties are currently under a snowfall warning. They're expecting to get approximately 20 centimeters of snow. This is expected to continue overnight and through tomorrow morning at this point. Meanwhile, Newfoundland and Labrador is under multiple public weather alerts right now for extreme cold, with wind chills as low as -40 expected later this week. So that's just something to keep an eye
Fantastic.
on. Bundle up.
Tell me about the billions that are being spent in Alberta.
So, one of the first provinces to reach a 10-year healthcare funding deal with Ottawa is Alberta. They've recently signed a $24 billion deal that's going to provide them with $2.4 billion a year. This includes $2.9 billion for a new bilateral agreement focused on shared health priorities, and $233 million in an immediate one-time top-up to the Canada Health Transfer to address urgent needs, which include things in pediatric hospitals and ERs, as well as addressing long wait times for surgeries. This is all part of a $196 billion 10-year healthcare funding proposal that Justin Trudeau made to provinces on February 7th.
In this house, Disney is God. Well, not God, but next thing too. Apparently, Mr. DeSantis doesn't look at Disney as a very good corporation, and he's looking for power against
Right.
them.
Yeah, it's there is a special operating zone for Disney. Essentially it's a self-governing district. And basically what they've done today is DeSantis signed a bill that gives them control of that self-governing district, punishing the company over its opposition to Florida's "Don't Say Gay" law. Um, so he's gearing up for a presidential run. He's trying to appeal to his base and has decided that he's going to strip some of the rights that one of the largest employers in America currently has.
Not good, Aaron. We're going to leave that as the last word, and you get to make it.
Well, the way that everything is going these days, I am glad that we have actually found a little time to embrace those who aren't necessarily the same as ourselves. In particular, the Saskatchewan Rush recently had a Pride Night, which was great. Car McKay was the performer there and said that it was fantastic to perform in front of that crowd on that particular day because there was a great outpouring of love and support. So I'm glad to see
Thanks.
that at least some places we get along.
Thanks for that, Aaron.
Thanks, Frank.
He's Aaron William Freeland. I'm Candid Frank Stanisci. Thank you for watching Candid Frank Live, Aaron, Mondays, Wednesdays, and Fridays at 6 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Please watch our shows along with this Candid Frank Live show, CFL Talk, NLL Lacrosse Talk, Candid Frank Stanisci YouTube channel. That's where to find them all in case you missed their live broadcast here on Zingo TV. Until next time, ciao, ciao.